Some objects are just more than objects, right? They become these powerful symbols of a moment in time. And today, we're going to talk about one of the most powerful and honestly haunting of them all. That raspberry pink suit, the one Jacqueline Kennedy wore on November 22nd, 1963.
So just imagine for a second, after the absolute horror of her husband being assassinated, literally right beside her, someone offers her a clean dress to change into, and she says no. The whole story of that day, and everything that suit came to represent, it all comes down to one single, powerful question. Why? Why did she keep it on?
I mean, look at this picture. It's one of the most jarring, unsettling photos in American history. It was taken just 99 minutes after the assassination. And in this incredibly cramped, chaotic space, your eyes just go to one person, the woman in pink. Her face is just a mask of grief. But her being there, wearing that suit, was a deliberate choice. And to really get why, we need to rewind a bit, back to how the day started.
See, before that suit became a symbol of tragedy, it stood for something completely different. It was all about the glamour, the sophistication, that whole carefully crafted image of the Kennedy years we call Camelot.
President Kennedy, he got it. He was totally aware of his wife's star power. That very morning, he joked to a crowd, saying he felt like the man who accompanied Mrs. Kennedy to Paris. He knew her style and grace were huge political assets, especially on this really important trip to Texas. He wasn't just the president, he was Jackie's +1. And you know what? He absolutely loved it.
And here's the thing. That suit was no accident. It was a very deliberate choice. In fact, the night before, JFK himself helped her pick it out. He specifically wanted her to wear it for the Dallas luncheon. His goal? He wanted her to show these Texans what good taste really is. It was a political mission, and the suit was part of the strategy.
And this is where it gets really brilliant. This suit was sending two messages at once. On the surface, it looked like this super chic, classic Chanel design right out of Paris. Very sophisticated, very global. But the reality? It was an authorized, American-made copy, a perfect, line-for-line replica from a New York boutique. So it had that international flair, but it was also projecting pure American patriotism, just the perfect political outfit for a first lady. So you have this perfect image, right? So carefully put together, and it was all about to be just shattered, violently. The whole day just unraveled with terrifying speed.
Just look at this timeline. It really shows you how fast everything happened. We're talking about a span of just over 2 hours. In that short time, a successful political trip becomes a national nightmare, a first lady becomes a widow, and the country gets a new president. It's just mind-boggling.
It's so heartbreaking when you think about it. These were the very last words President Kennedy ever heard. The wife of the Texas governor, Nellie Connolly, said that to him, just capturing the mood of the moment. The crowds were cheering, the sun was out, everything was going perfectly. The day was a huge success.
And then, everything changed. Just like that. An instant of pure chaos. What she said to the Secret Service agent who jumped on the back of the car, "They've shot my husband. I have his brains in my hand." I mean, it's just so raw, so visceral. A horror you can't even begin to imagine. Her entire world, and the nation's, was flipped completely upside down.
Lady Bird Johnson, who was in the car behind them, described what she saw at the hospital. She called Jackie, quote, a bundle of pink, just like a drift of blossoms, lying on the back seat. It's such a heartbreaking image, isn't it? That vibrant pink suit, which just moments before was all about life and glamour, now looked like something so fragile, so broken. Then, inside the hospital's trauma room, she had her final moments with him, and she did something deeply personal. She took off her wedding ring and placed it on his finger. It was this final act of love, of closure. It was like she was saying goodbye to their future together. And right there, that was the turning point. In that moment, the wife was gone, and the witness was about to be born.
Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of the story. That pivotal moment, that choice she made on Air Force One. This is where her private grief becomes an incredibly powerful public statement.
So they're on the plane, and you could only imagine the shock and confusion. And Lady Bird Johnson does what any of us would do. She very gently offers Jackie a clean dress. It's a kind, logical thing to do, right? A simple act of human decency. Anyone would want to get out of those clothes.
But Jackie's response was, wow. It was not what you'd expect. It was so clear, so steely, so resolute. She just said, "Oh no, I want them to see what they've done to Jack."
And with those words, in that single moment, she made a choice. She chose to become a living, breathing testament to what had just happened. And that's exactly what she became. A witness, someone who sees an event and bears testament to it. She wasn't just a grieving widow anymore. She was the witness. And that blood-stained suit, that was her testimony. She knew instinctively that to change out of it, to wash it, that would be like trying to erase the crime.
So when she says them, I want them to see, who was she talking about? It wasn't just about a single assassin. See, that very morning, JFK had seen this really hateful full-page ad against him in a Dallas paper, and he'd said something like, "We're really in nut country now." So for Jackie, the blood on her suit wasn't just the act of one person. It was an indictment of that whole climate of political hatred she believed was responsible.
And she stuck with that decision. She was resolute for the rest of that incredibly long day. But what happened to the suit after all of this? Well, that's what sealed its place in history. It became something more than just evidence. It became a sacred relic. When they finally got back to Washington, she had another chance to hide. They offered to let her leave the plane privately, away from the cameras. And again, she said no. She walked right down those steps, holding her brother-in-law's hand, into the blinding flashes of the world's cameras. She made absolutely sure that everyone saw her message.
Once she was finally back in the White House, she took the suit off. But it was never cleaned. The blood, the trauma, the history of that terrible day, it was all preserved, exactly as it was. The suit was just folded, put into a box, and eventually sent to the National Archives. Her family, of course, understood how powerful this object was. They didn't want it to become some kind of morbid curiosity. So, her daughter, Caroline, made a decision. She stipulated that the suit has to be kept away from public view for 100 years, a full century.
Let that sink in. The earliest anyone will get to see this piece of history is the year 2103. It's a decision that really protects her intention, right? It makes sure that what she meant as a solemn testament doesn't just turn into some ghoulish tourist attraction.
And you know, there's one last kind of haunting piece to this whole story. The hat. That iconic pink pillbox hat that went with the suit, it vanished. Sometime in the chaos at the hospital, she apparently handed it to an aide, and it's just never been seen since. It's lost to history.
So, that just leaves us with this one final thought. In a moment of unimaginable shock, of the deepest personal horror, when every human instinct would tell you to run, to hide, she did the exact opposite. She stood up, she stepped forward, and she made the world look at the ugliness of what had happened. And you just have to wonder, where on earth did she find that strength?